So I noticed today when Andrew was up here, he asked a question, how many folks have read Channel E to E and other publications that Joe's done over the years. And I noticed that a lot of people raised their hands. I would be remiss if I did not take 2 minutes to highlight how important Joe Panettiere has been to this entire industry. So it's the spring of 2007. My MSP, Thrive Networks, has just been acquired by Staples. And I see that we were just named number 9 on the MSP Mentor 101. So for those that don't know, everyone now knows like the 501 list. That started as the 101 list. And it was MSP Mentor, Joe's publication, that did it, put it out. And I remember literally seeing it online, and like 30 minutes later, Jay Baitler, my new boss at Staples, executive vice president, calls me up and says, hey, I just saw this. We're like the number 9 MSP in the world now. And he's like, how, did you pay for that? How'd you get on that list? I said, no, if you know Joe, there's no way he would allow anyone to pay for that. We won it because he recognizes how important this space is. And this industry is where it is. There's a few pivotal players, I think, in the history of this industry. I think Joe is one of them because of the simple fact that he put a big spotlight on this industry really early on. And I just want to acknowledge that and thank you, Joe, in front of this crowd for that. So that brings me to my presentation here. I've got 30 minutes to talk about SaaS-Onomics. So this is, I believe, what the future of the MSP revenue model is on a go-forward basis. So most people are probably familiar with Peakonomics. So Peakonomics, developed by my good friend Gary Pika, is essentially the overarching model that I believe makes a ton of sense for every MSP out there in terms of how you think about the math, right? And earlier, Joe talked about the fact that if you're going to be successful in this industry long term, you need to know your math and you need to have a model that you stick to that's going to drive your business and profitability. So what's SaaS-Onomics? SaaS-Onomics is simply the study of and knowledge to drive incremental revenue through the protection of SaaS applications. As a former MSP, I can tell you that back in 2010, I was sweating bullets. I was sweating bullets because we saw this new phenomenon called SaaS applications coming our way. And I'm thinking to myself, with SaaS applications, we don't manage servers anymore. So if we don't manage servers, how are we going to drive more value? How are we going to continue to protect our customers and therefore drive value, therefore charge money? So I always thought to myself, SaaS is negative, bad thing. But then 365 came along, and despite the fact that we used to print money monitoring Exchange, and I don't think we're making as much money as an industry with 365. But all that being said, SaaS applications, if you look at it the right way and how the market's evolving, I think we can actually make more money and more margin. And ultimately, that's what SaaS-Onomics is all about. But you definitely need to be thinking about it differently. We know the underpinnings, the financial underpinnings of this industry is recurring revenue, professional services, which is driven by project revenue, and then product. How many of you are seeing less and less product and project revenue in your business? I talked to a lot of MSPs on the board of 2. Both of them, and many others I talked to, are seeing less and less professional services revenue. That means that we have to make up for it somewhere if we're going to continue to grow our businesses and have profitable businesses. So this is what SaaS-Onomics is all about. So one thing that I like to do before I start any presentation, by the way, this is not just external to all you folks, but we literally have someone at SaaS Alerts in every internal meeting recite this, why we exist. We believe that there is a transition underway in cybersecurity from an on-prem and device-centric focus to a user behavior and account-centric approach. SaaS Alerts helps you win on this transition, and that's why we exist. A little bit about SaaS Alerts for those that don't know. I've done this presentation a few times, and I've been remiss by not highlighting because there's some people in this room that probably have never even heard of us. So just a quick summary of what we do. So we're cloud detection and response. We're broken up in a few different modules. One is manage. So that's where you add users and add applications that you want covered, and you set up all your rules, right? So Fortify is 365 configuration management. This is where you see your security score baseline. You understand the recommended actions associated with getting it to the ideal score based on the license type. And you can do it with one click of a button. Everyone here is for automation, so you'd like one click of a button. Make it happen not just in one tenant, 100 tenant, 1,000 tenants. How many tenants do you have? Then we have something called Unify. We're the only ones in the world that actually reads the RMM agent that you have. And then we correlate the device side information from the RMM with the account user information in 365 and other applications to give you the ultimate insight of what's going on with that specific user that you're covering today. We also monitor your RMMs for things like supply chain attacks. Report. We give you customized reporting that you private label to show your customers where the threats are coming from, how many there are, what their users are doing, what they're downloading, what they're taking. So that's all right there. And then response. So we have a module called Respond, and what that does is automated remediation. It's a customized rules engine. So for example, you've got a customer logging in from an unapproved location. Happens all the time. You've got Unify set up. Say you use Datto RMM. We can now see that that individual is logging in from an outside approved location on a device that we do not recognize. We've never seen this device before. That is an automatic breach, compromise, right? So the software will lock, if you set up that rule, the software will lock that account, revoke the session token, reset the password. So that's what Respond does. So these are the applications that we cover today. So it's a lot more than 365, even though that's what most of you care about today. But SaaS-Onomics goes well past 365, okay? So we do Google Workspace, we have Respond for Google, Salesforce, Dropbox, Slack. We integrate with the vast majority of your MSP tools. And I'm very proud to say, happy to say, that in Q4, you will also see Rewst on this list. So most of you are doing great things with Rewst. You're giving them access to a lot, right? So in Q4, in talking with Aaron, we will be able to monitor the user behavior in Rewst as well to give you all that additional level of protection. When you use SaaS Alerts, you monitor your own tools for free. We believe that you can't protect your customer if you're not protecting yourself first. That's a core tenet at SaaS Alerts. So now let's get into one use case, by the way, that a number of you have been asking for that is being set up now by Rewst. So again, you've got a lot of customers that are logging in from outside approved locations, but some of them, it's just vacation. They're traveling. It happens. We're business people. So what Rewst is doing is setting this up so you can capture the travel dates of those individuals in your customer, look at the location that they're going to, and then that's not going to set off any alarm bells until they come back. And this will all be automated. Again, mitigating the noise that you see on a day-to-day basis. So this is just an example of one use case. And we actually have a ton of partners that are using the combination of Rewst and SaaS Alerts. Okay, so let's talk about now, let's get into the heart of SaaS-Onomics now that you have a little context about what we do and how we do it. So one of the things I've learned in the software business that I wish I could go back to my MSP with is how important pricing, packaging, and positioning is. And again, my good friend Gary Pika talks about this all the time. So let's talk about pricing in terms of how the average MSP today is actually pricing SaaS security monitoring. Now they're obviously using us, that's how we know this, but it could be anything. Any product that does what we do. So first we've got the add-on. This is where you're charging $1 to $9 per user per month. The average is $3, by the way. That's where we see most MSPs charging for what we do. There's companies, by the way, going direct to your customers. They're charging $5 or $6 a user. They don't go through the channel. They sell direct to your customer and they sell $5 to $6. So at $3, you're still charging a very fair competitive price. So what we do, in most cases, what I think is most effective is when you go to them and say, hey, look, the entire landscape has changed and we're going to charge you $3 per user per month for this added protection if you don't want to opt out. That's what we call the add-on. Then we've got something called the cybersecurity bundle. A lot of you may be doing just bundling tools in and charging $20 to $40 for a cybersecurity bundle. That's something that we see quite often. I don't like it as much as the add-on, but it's there. And then the all-inclusive is one that I really don't like because this is where you're essentially just saying, as part of your managed service package, you're getting all of this included. And what happens is that you're not taking enough credit for the value that you're providing. You're bundling everything in where you could be, you're not properly demonstrating the value that you bring to the table and therefore charging for it. So that's why I don't like the all-inclusive. But from a pricing standpoint, this is what we see and this is what you could do. So let's talk about packaging. Everyone remember back when the new commerce experience that Microsoft gave us a few years back? So when that came out, one of the things that we did was we looked at all the 365 license types, and we started doing comparisons in terms of what they offered and how much they cost. And one of the things that we determined was that 365 Business Premium actually delivers the most value for the dollar for your specific customer. And, it gives you the P1. And it costs you $22 per user per month. If you add SaaS Alerts to that for $3, the total cost now is $25. And from a positioning standpoint, once we understand that and what we can do with it, now we can position it against other security packages and look at what the margin is, right? So on this, when you just on 365 Business Premium, you're looking at, with SaaS Alerts, it's a 26% margin versus an E3 license, which is at basically 18% margin. Here's a closer look in terms of how you could position this. So the Business Premium with SaaS Alerts at $25 versus an E3 at $36. You save your customer $11 per user per month. But what we're doing is we're saying, hey, look, we're going to police Microsoft. The worst thing, in my opinion, that you can do is be all in and say, you know what we're going to do? We're going to police Microsoft with Microsoft. That sounds like a good idea. Because Microsoft is the most secure company in the planet. I think we all see that in the press every single day. You know, they never have any issues. So what we're going to say is we're now going to monitor the #1 application that all your users touch every single day and that touch other applications. We're going to do that with a third-party application. And it'll be continuous. And guess what? We're also going to be able to give you all the data. We're going to put the 365 in 365 because we're going to actually have retention for 365 days, where an E3 is going to give you 30 days. The E5 gives you 90 days. So we're going to give you the best of all worlds, and we're going to save you $11 per user per month. This is a great way to position this. SaaS-Onomics goes well deeper. I'm just going over some initial pricing, packaging, and positioning. But I'm going to actually go over more in depth this calculator here in a couple of minutes. One of the things that we have is a guarantee, because we now have 1,100 MSPs. And we know what's worked really, really well. And there's an easy way to do this. The easy way to do it is you go to all your customers and talk about the fact that the security landscape has changed. The threat landscape has changed. We need to better protect, again, the #1 application all your users are using and touching other applications. And we're going to do that through the coverage extension notification. This is a template that we created at SaaS Alerts that we give you. And we know how effective it is because we've now done it so many times. We know the opt-out rate on this is only 5%, which means that 95% of your customers, they're going to assume the $3 price increase. And we're going to guarantee it. We're going to guarantee a certain amount of increased monthly recurring revenue in 60 days. If we don't get you there, then we're going to actually give you $1,000 for your time. So this is a coverage extension notification. I don't expect you to read it. I'm not giving you time to read it, but we will give it to you. And one of the keys in this coverage extension notification is the link to the Microsoft terms of use. So this is what it is blown up. I will highlight or bring your attention to the last two sentences. So Microsoft has always done a really good job of protecting themselves. And they've always said, we are not going to be held responsible for anyone gaining unlawful access to your tenant. A couple of years ago, a year and a half ago, they took it a step further. And they said, however, you could be held liable for losses incurred by Microsoft or another party due to someone else using your account or password. So what they're now saying is, hey, look, there's nothing we can really do about user security, so we're going to threaten you legally and say, if someone else gains unlawful access, they can come after you. So when people understand this, then they're a lot more eager to opt in than opt out. But they need to understand the facts. This is not a fear tactic. This is education. And when you bring this to your customers, they gain a level of knowledge and respect for you for bringing it to them. So it's really, really important. And by the way, most people don't realize that was put in. It was literally 2 sentences put it in the terms of use a year and a half ago when they did NCE, and it just flew right by most people. One of the other things that we do to help you convey the value is we've created a template, a lot of actually awesome marketing stuff that Amy Card, our VP of Marketing, or team have put together. This is called the Microsoft Security Plus plan. And this highlights essentially all the features and benefits that you're going to give them as part of this new service that you're providing them, protect their #1 application. And you can put your logo right in there. And again, it talks about the fact that you're going to now put you're putting the 365 in Microsoft 365, and that you're going to protect them all these different ways, right? So that's for you as well. So how do you get started? It's really, really easy. One, you just become a partner, and we're going to guarantee the coverage extension. We're going to give you the coverage extension notification. You put that out there, send it out, watch your MRR increase, and if we don't get you there, then we're going to give you the $1,000. So you can visit us. We're at booth 16. That's our website. We have something also every week called the SaaS MSP call. Andrew Morgan, he moderates that for us every single week. That is, so we're on it, but we don't moderate it. We think it's really important if we're going to create a community that we actually have a third party that does that with us and for us. So with that, before I leave the stage, I'm going to take you through the SaaS-Onomics calculator, so you really understand how you can drive a lot more revenue on a go-forward basis with protecting more SaaS applications. So let's talk about what the calculator is basically built off of. So let's just say you've got 3,000 users, okay? And you're going to charge your customer $3 per user per month. So that's pretty easy math, right? So that's $9,000 in incremental monthly recurring revenue. Your cost on that is 80 cents a user. This gives you the breakdown: 3,000 users, 80 cents a user. Okay, $2,400 a month is your cost, but you're generating $9,000 in revenue. So your gross margin on this is $6,600 a month. Even my friend Gary Pica would be happy with these margins. So this is pretty basic, and this is our standard go-to-market piece, right? This is standard fare. But where SaaS-Onomics really comes into play, and again, thinking about how we have to replace lost project and product revenue on a go-forward basis, let's talk about other ways that we can increase your monthly recurring revenue. So if Amy scrolls down here, you saw the list of all those other applications that we provide, right? So let's just say you've got customers that have Duo, they have Okta, they have AWS CloudTrail, okay? And with your 3,000 users, let's just say you've got 100 customers for easy math. I'm willing to bet that you can go to 20 of those customers and get them to pay for at least one additional application, okay, to protect. So maybe Okta or Duo is big for them, or Slack is big for them, or Dropbox, or AWS. And say, look, we're going to charge you $200 additional for that, protecting that application. And we're seeing it happen all over the place, right? So now we've got 20 additional applications you're protecting for 20 additional customers, one application per. We're charging $200 per application. Now let's get into incident response. So I know there's a number of MSPs out there that they do incident response for their customers, and we have some very large MSPs and MSSPs that are doing this for their customers. And what they're now doing is they're essentially putting incident response protection plans together, saying the average incident is going to cost you, Mr. Customer, Mrs. Customer, $20,000. Instead, what we can do is we can charge you essentially just like a protection plan in your iPhone. We can charge you $1,000. And then if an incident does happen, you don't pay an extra dime. We got you covered. So now you get 5 customers to pay you $1,000 a month for your incident response plan. So we go back. We've got 20 additional applications. We've got 5 incident response protection plans. So when we combine it all together, we scroll, we look at what our total revenue picture looks like. We've got the core bundle that you're charging $3 per user for. We've got the additional applications with App Wizard for $4,000, your incident response protection plans for $5,000, your total monthly recurring revenue has just gone up $18,000. $216,000 of ARR. If you put these people on a 3-year plan, it's like 650 grand. I believe, my contention is, that this is actually the future revenue model based on where the market's going. Let's face it, software developers are not creating more on-prem software. Anyone that's developing software today is going to be SaaS. We need to figure out as a community how we're going to protect and therefore monetize the usage of those applications. SaaS-Onomics, my friends, I believe is a way to successfully do that. Thank you for being here. Thank you for Rewst for having us. Really appreciate it.